AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Today is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Ellie Krug is kind enough to join us. Ellie, of course, has Ellie 2.0 radio on Saturdays at 10 a.m. You can listen to that fantastic show there. She's kind enough today to join us to talk about the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Hi, Ellie.
Hey, Matt, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on, because obviously I've been paying attention to the crazy train that is going on in many states and in the Republican Party. Yep. This is one of those things where, I mean, I think there's a town in Tennessee right now, and this is not transgender, but they've basically said you can't be gay in public. That they've passed a law that says this in Tennessee now, which it's going to be interesting to see how they hold that one up in court. But needless to say, this is where this is going, and we have to remind people that this is. Yeah, hate is wrong. For goodness sakes, we'd think we'd have learned it by now.
Well, so what today is every year on November 20th, it's commemorated as Transgender Day of Remembrance. And this is the one day a year that across the U.S., but also across the world, that transgender people who have been killed, Matt, okay, who have been murdered, are remembered. Mm-hmm. So according to a report that came out by the Human Rights Campaign recently, which is HRC is the largest LGBTQ advocacy organization in the U.S., this year alone, so far, 33 transgender or gender nonconforming people have been murdered in the U.S. The majority of those 33 murders have been people of color, and out of that, the highest percentage of transgender people who are murdered every year are black transgender women. Another noteworthy fact here, Matt, is that 73% of all those deaths involved gun violence. So this is an epidemic, and of course, what's going on? Just what you just said is, Matt, this year there were in the legislative season this year there were more than 500 anti-LGBTQ bills introduced across the country. Even in Minnesota, I think there were 4 or 5 or 7 that were introduced here in Minnesota. And, and right now, as I speak to you, in 23 states, transgender kids, mainly transgender girls, because of the state laws, can't participate in school sports in public school from kindergarten all the way through public university senior year. And there are another 21 states that have prevented transgender people, the states have outlawed trans kids and trans youth and some adults from getting gender-affirming care. In other words, preventing transgender girls, from being able to deal with the voice that your listeners are hearing right now. Because when a young trans girl gets gender-affirming care, when she gets puberty blockers, she won't grow up with this voice as a woman. So that's how this is so incredibly important.
Well, and
what these laws do is they make people feel that it's okay that transgender people are less than worthy.
We've had school board candidates who are on school boards right now who have run with the idea of I will discriminate against transgender people and transgender students. That is their entire campaign, is I will discriminate. Same people who say they claim to be life seem to really have too much problem with transgender people being murdered. And I think that it's kind of weird. This is it's already going on, as you said, 33 this year alone. By the way, what year did they start the Transgender Day of Remembrance? When did that begin?
It goes back to 1990, I believe. And in the last decade, at least 335. So in the last 10 years, 335 transgender and gender nonconforming people have been killed in the United States. Mm. That's just here in the U.S. Across the world, the number is much higher.
Oh, yeah. If people would like to, obviously, we need to make sure this remembrance gets out today. Is there a website, or is there something that a person can go search online, find out more information about this day?
All they have to do is Google Transgender Day of Remembrance, and they'll find all kinds of resources.
Okay. Transgender Day of Remembrance today, November 20th. In the United States. And once again, this is something that we had 33 people already die this year. there are people that are trying to say that number needs to go up, and we need to fight that every single stinking day, because this hate needs to go away, and this is just hate needs to go away, for goodness sakes. Ellie, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining us on today. I really appreciate the information. All my best on Transgender Day of Remembrance as well. Hopefully, I hope there's a day that we can kind of remember just the day, not have to do the annual remembrance. You know what I mean?
That's right. Well, thank you, Matt. I really appreciate you having me on, and thanks to our listeners who are just wonderful folks, very, very supportive.
Ellie Krug, let's take a break. Come on back, 952-946-6205. Hour 2 up next.